Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all in this virtual orientation program of academic session 2021 odd semester, organized by Jagran Lake City University School of Law. It is amazing to see that we are keeping the tradition live even in these testing times. I hope you all are safe at your home and participating in this very special session. Today, I am blessed to host a special person who played a very important role in shaping my career and bringing me to where I am today. I had the opportunity to learn lessons of professionalism from him at the early stage of my career. It is heartening to see him taking time out of his very busy schedule to inspire the students of JLU School of Law. Please join me in welcoming Senior Advocate, High Court of Bombay and co-founder of one of the top law firms of the country, Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan, Shri V. Sridharan sir. Sir, it is an honor to have you in this virtual orientation program ceremony for the academic session 2021 for our old batch students. Today, he will enlighten us on the very important topic, modern law and traditional law, interplay and interdependence. I must inform you, sir, that Jagran Lake City University maintained the academic rigor in students with committed efforts and new initiatives during the lockdown period. We also successfully completed the online examination and we successfully declared all results not on time and ensured continuous progress of our bright and young energetic students. Beginning of this academic year with having words of wisdom from you is a true blessing for us, and I hope our budding lawyers will have a lot of many takeaways from this session. I now give the session to you, sir. Over to you, V. Sridharan, sir.
Good afternoon, Professor. Good afternoon, my dear children. I'm grateful to Professor to request me to give a talk on this topic. I do not know why you people have called me. Professors, your own professor's own example is a live example of how, due to dint of sincerity and hard work, you can reach the highest level in the profession. I don't think you need to look forward for any external people to draw inspiration. Pardon me, my Hindi is very poor, but I'm told there is some saying, loose saying in Hindi that Gar ka murgi dal barabar, something like that. Just because professor is there in your campus 24 hours a day, is a very easy person to access. You see in flesh and blood every day. You are not recognizing what you can learn from him. When I used to regularly practice in the Customs Tribunal, Dr. Srivastava, at that time was not doctor, okay, used to attend the court hearings as a court master. And the work in the court master in the tribunal, I'm not wasting time. There's an important lesson. Therefore, I'm taking time in explaining this story. As a court master, work was purely clerical. No legal work, no intellectual work, particularly in the Customs Tribunal. But during that time, he pursued his LLM. The court master job is enough if you take an LLB degree. Then you get an assured salary, government job, everything was secured. He did his LLM. Not content with LLM, he did his doctorate. And during the court hearings, when otherwise his work was purely clerical, handing over the file to the court judge, not having a legal role, he voluntarily used to take interest in all the important cases being argued by good lawyers. Customs, subject of customs and service tax was completely new to him. He was specialization in international law professor, no? Huh? Hmm. Nothing to do with taxation at all.
Yes.
But still, he used to take keen interest. Simultaneously, when the judge is listening to the case, it's no part of his job to listen. He used to understand, ask us later, and all times maintain highest level of integrity. Highest level of integrity as a court master. So, by sheer dint of hard work, from the post of an court clerk, if I may say so, court clerk, court master, he reached this position. And one thing is, if you pursue your studies, career sincerely and diligently, you'll automatically reach success, reap success. Please don't bother tomorrow what job I will get, what rank I will get in second year, third year, fourth year. No, you do your job of studying studiously and religiously, and then everything will take its own course. So therefore I was saying there was no need for professor to call me to share my thoughts. His own example is there live before you every day. The second reason why I asked him why I have this doubt is I am a lawyer practicing on the taxation side in the Supreme Court, in Bombay High Court and various high courts. I do not know anything about civil law. I do not know anything about criminal law. More importantly, I do not know about any of your so-called modern laws. Okay, I'm using the word so-called for the reason we'll explain just now. Okay, but still he has called me to give this a talk. Since I am familiar only with tax, whatever I say will be linked to tax, financial sector, etc. Okay, kindly pardon me for that. Many years ago, 15-20 years ago, nowadays our Indian cricket team is doing reasonably well, winning good matches both outside India, inside India, etc. 15-20 years ago, we were doing very badly. Or in 2007 or so, we lost early rounds of World Cup, etc. So public was very upset with the cricket team. So one journalist went and asked Narayan Murthy. As you all know, Narayan Murthy was the founder of Infosys. He put Indian IT industry in the world map. But he is a software expert. Some journalists went and asked him, Mr. Narayan Murthy, are heading this Infosys, is a very successful company. You are a chairman. Please tell us how our cricket team can become a top-class cricket team. Narayan Murthy says, I know nothing about sports. As a student also, I was very poor in sports. I didn't know anything. You're asking the wrong person. Then the journalist, as usual, persisted. No, Mr. Narayan Murthy, tell us. Okay, you're asking me, I will tell you what I think will work. I do not know whether it is applicable to cricket or not, but I'll tell you. He says, your team requires 15 players. Okay. Keep a reserve for 2 players for each player. Select 45 best players in the country. First session, he said that. Second, normally these 45 players stay in their home. Whenever cricket match is to be played, 2 days before the match, they assemble, practice, and then play the match. He said, this cannot happen. Every company, every top executive works in the company morning to evening. So please choose some training center and give them house next to the training center, whether it is Bangalore, Hyderabad, etc. All these 45 people you select will 24/7 stay in the house and in the training center. They will practice morning to evening. Okay. And they'll have matches. You may have expert coaches to come and coach them. Okay. If you follow this process, I think you will do well. So his lesson simply was, Players assembling 2 days before the match, practicing 3 days before the match, or 10 days conditioning camp. And then naturally, and then people get injured, there is no backup, etc. He says, draw up a plan, practice like this, let them be 24. Similarly, what do these colleges do? Even in virtual colleges, virtual education courses, etc., you are constructively in the campus. The purpose of having a campus is there's a discipline introduced. People, students meet together, enjoy the campus atmosphere, exchange information with them. But during these 4-5 years, apart from your recreation, etc., your focus should be on studies. It is not possible for you to study law at the age of 50. You have to study at this age only. Enjoy as well as study. So my suggestion to you is, though I am a tax lawyer, any successful student of law, any successful practitioner of law has to follow some fundamental principles. This is what I'm going to discuss and bore you with the next 20-30 minutes. The advantage of this webinar sessions, Professor, is you do not know whether children are listening to you, children are not listening to you, children are bored or not bored, whether they are busy in their WhatsApp or not. So as far as the lecturer is concerned, he is thinking all students are listening carefully. So that's an advantage for the lecturer. Our students are concerned, they can keep busying themselves with whatever interests them. Incidentally, if they want to listen to the lecture and learn something also, incidental benefit, no problem. The topic for today's discussion is so-called interplay and interrelationship between modern law and classical or traditional law. Professor was telling me the children nowadays are interested in emerging laws. They are interested in space law. He says they are interested in sports law, cyber law, and then international commercial arbitration, health and medicine, so many things he says, energy law, transport law, infrastructure law, merger and acquisition. About 2 years ago, when Insolvency Code, IBC Act was enacted, NCLT was constituted, and NCLT was there. Suddenly, all lawyers in this country felt NCLT is the best place to practice. New IBC Code is there. So something great is there. Similarly, to get hold of our what is the McDowell man? Yeah, Kingfisher man, Malaya. He has gone. Lalit Modi has gone. They enacted a new law, fugitive law. So that's a new branch of law. We will learn all this. You please listen to the next 2 sentences of mine. All these so-called new laws are nothing new. They are fundamentally the same. There are few aspects of these laws which are little peculiar. That somebody has to know that. I'm not saying everything is, but the core principles of law are identical. And I'll tell you in a minute. I'll give examples. Nothing, this is not talking from the air. In other words, whether you want to specialize in privacy law or you want to specialize in sports law, space law, anything you may do. If you don't do the pet topic of mine, namely contract law, you cannot do 1 inch of progress. 1 inch of progress, I mean it seriously. Without knowing contract law, none of these new laws you can do anything. On the other hand, a person who knows contract law completely can do any of these laws at any time. I do not know, Professor, you teach contract law for first semester, first 2 terms?
Yes, sir. First and second semester, sir.
I am told, I don't know because I studied in government law college only in Delhi. In UK, they teach insolvency law and contract law for all the 3 years. 3-year law courses, 3 years. Okay. Due to your academic requirements, etc., you may not be able to have the luxury of doing law for all the 5 years. But nothing prevents the students from studying the contract law during spare time in their 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year. When I say contract law, first, of course, is Indian Contract Act. If you want to be a successful civil lawyer practicing the district court, you want to be a civil lawyer practicing in the high court, you want to join a commercial organization in developing various agreements, or you want to join a solicitor firm in a place like Bombay, Delhi, where you want to draft transactions relating to property. If you do not have a complete mastery of contract law, you will achieve nothing. For your information, during this lockdown, first 3.5 months, every day, between 9 to 11:30, I read for the first time once again, after 20 years, each section from Pollock and Mullah Contract Act. I downloaded from the net 1944 edition. This is what I do. I'm not saying that's the correct method of doing. That's the only method of doing. My method of doing is because current authors in India do not do justice to these books. Okay. Unlike England, where current authors do substantial addition to the books, my own belief is in Indian books, substantial value addition is not done in subsequent editions. Rather, they spoil the original author's flow of writing, style of writing, precision, etc. This is my personal view. I may be wrong. I recommend to all of you, and that is freely downloadable. Now, 1944 edition of Pollock and Mullah, 12th edition or something, it is freely downloadable. Okay. And you read Indian Contract Act thoroughly, plus read this book thoroughly. For example, even in this book, even we do not want to deal with contract with minors, undue influence, forgery, etc., even if you don't want to deal with that, at least the chapters from section 37 onwards, namely performance of contract, breach of contract, and in these COVID times, if you want to make quick money, even if you read section 73, 74, and 75, the commentary on these sections relating to breach of contract and damages, it will serve you. If you master these chapters in the book, also if you want to read agency, no problem. So you want to be successful energy lawyer, cyber lawyer, etc. No way you can do any of this without knowing this. I will give a simple example, and Professor, you can correct me. I learned it from my colleague and junior Somesh Jain. I'll give a simple example or two examples how the so-called modern law has no existence without the fundamentals of classical law. Nowadays, you have these email contracts, online contracts, etc. Professor, is there no?
Yes, sir.
Email contracts, online contracts are there.
Yes, yes, sir.
What is the principle? When do you say the contract is formed? I will explain. This is the latest. But the answer to that is 150-year-old law. And I'll tell you just now. When contract law emerged in UK, at that time there was no telex, no telephone, etc. A contract is effective only when it is offered and accepted, and acceptance is communicated. So proposer P makes a proposal to acceptor A. Proposer P makes a proposal to acceptor A. Acceptor A accepts the proposal and communicates the acceptance to P. I repeat, proposer P makes an offer to acceptor person A, acceptor A accepts the proposal and communicates the proposal to P. If A does not communicate his proposal, acceptance, contract is not formed. If persons are next to each other, he can easily know whether my proposal reached the acceptor, whether acceptor has accepted it and communicated to the proposer. Proposer will know, yes, A has accepted, P will know A has accepted. Contract is concluded. Now, if you send it by post, A in London makes the offer by post to B in Scotland, let us say, Edinburgh, by post. We just now saw contract comes into existence only when the acceptor has accepted it and communicates to the proposer, and proposer knows this. If they are opposite each other, they know everything. But suppose the proposer is in London, the acceptor is in Edinburgh in Scotland, and is sent by post. When is the contract concluded? One way could be when the acceptor in Edinburgh posts the letter. The contract is concluded. Another would be unless proposer P in London knows that has been accepted and he receives the communication return post from A, he will not know my communication accepted. So one view was contract is complete only when the return post from A in Edinburgh reaches the proposer P. Then only it is complete. Then somebody asked, how will the acceptor know that the proposer has accepted it? Then proposer has to re-communicate. So there will be only communications going on. We'll never know when the contract is concluded. Therefore, the English court said, we agree when persons are opposite each other, contract comes into existence only when the acceptor communicates his acceptance the proposer and proposer receives it. However, when they are located in distant places, the same principle cannot be adopted, same rigidity. As a practical solution, they say when the acceptor sends his acceptance by post, whether received by P or not, contract is formed and contract is completed. It need not be received by P. With the consequence, before the acceptor sent it by post, proposer P sends a telegram withdrawing his offer. Proposer P sends a telegram withdrawing his offer before acceptor A sent his acceptance by post. Offer is withdrawn because offer can be withdrawn before acceptance. On the other hand, he sends a letter. He posts the letter withdrawing the offer after acceptor has posted his, then contract is complete. So English court said when it is communication is accepted by post, when parties not located near each other, which principle should apply? They said the principle applicable to contracts when persons are physically present should be slightly modified for practical reasons, and contract is said to be formed when the acceptor sends it by post to the proposer. It doesn't come into existence after the proposer received it. That's what the English law was. Now, sir, after some time, telephone and telex came. Professor, if I'm taking time to illustrate an important point, that's the reason I'm taking time on this.
Yes, sir. You have full time with you, sir. Please go ahead.
Telephone. Suppose telex, communication sent by telex. Then the question arose before the court in England. For telex contracts, we should apply the principle of acceptance when persons are facing each other, or we should apply the principle which we have developed for postal contracts. English court said we'll apply the principle applicable to telex because telex sent and received are simultaneously known. So the proposer and acceptor can know whether it is being sent, received, etc. In telex, no such problem is there. Our Supreme Court faced this problem in Bhagwan Das case in case of telephones. The contract was written in 1870. It referred to post. It did not refer to telephone. What should be the principle applicable to telephone? That case came before the Supreme Court. One judge in the minority said, in England, contract law is unwritten law. It can develop with time, from time to time. In England, India, contract law is written law. Written law gets frozen. So whatever is said in 1872, namely, communication is complete only when it is posted. That should be the principle applicable. Minority said. Majority said no. In telephone, we can know whether the other person has given his acceptance or not. Telephonic contract is same as persons present across each other on a table. The proposer is able to know whether acceptor is given his consent or not. In telephone, it is possible. Therefore, on telephone, we do not apply the principle applicable for telex, but rather we apply the principle applicable for personal communication. I'm sorry. For contracts finalized over telephone, we'll apply the principle applicable to parties present opposite each other. We will not apply the principle applicable to the posts. In post, when the acceptor sends, it is complete. Professor, why did I give this long story, sir? The long story is, if a contract is made on email, what is the principle applicable? You are saying, no, your children are interested in emerging law, etc. The answer to this is found in solution, found 100 years. I will give you a number of examples just now in 2-3 minutes. The whole question, therefore, is online contracts. When is the formation taking place? Answer is simple. If a contract is made by email, is it similar to when parties are present opposite each other, like telephone or physically present, or is similar to postal? Answer depends only on this. If it is more akin to postal, then when it is sent by the other person, it is enough. If it is more akin to personal presence or telephone, then it will be akin to that. I am told, this I don't know much. In email, you will not know whether the other person has received it. Email may go to a central server of internet. There may be some feedback, etc., etc. You don't tell me in WhatsApp, sir, we get to know whether it's delivered or not. WhatsApp principle may be different from email contract. In email, there is, I understand, as per the current age of technology, it may be parked in a central server and it may be delivered later, maybe 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, etc. And you want to withdraw the proposal within that 5 minutes, it makes huge difference. Court held various articles world over say email should be compared to the post and email should not be compared to telephones, because you do not know the other person has sent his acceptance. Therefore, an email, the acceptance is complete only if it is acceptance received by the proposer. That's the principle. So I'm giving this example to say, if you know the classical law thoroughly, I'm not saying don't read what is email, what is online contracts, etc. You must read that. But if you make the mistake of reading only this, you'll keep on reading, you'll never understand them. So if you want to typically learn this branch of law, my first recommendation is read carefully Pollock and Mullah 1944 edition. Also read the current edition of the same book. That's the first recommendation to the students. Last time when I came to the university, sir, I also recommended to the children, they must read Anson's Law of Contract, which is for students. Pollock and Mullah is little, I don't know whether the student edition of Pollock and Mullah is available. If it is available, I'll recommend them to read that. Otherwise, they must read Anson's Law of Contract or Cheshire and Clifford Law of Contract. These two are simple, but Cheshire Clifford is even more lucidly written. And even there, I would recommend if you read an edition of 1960 or 70, also the current edition. In other words, if you know those fundamental principles, everything will be known. You can take, now you say sports law is the modern trend. Okay. So there is a book in India by Butterworth, Sports Law by Justice Mukul Mudgal. Justice Mukul Mudgal has written a book on sports law in India. There is a book in UK on Butterworth on sports law. Okay. And the first edition is even better than the third edition of sports law in UK. You read these two books, you will see the world of difference. But is sports law book by Indian author and sports law by the UK author, Butterworth. Both are Butterworth. The UK book is so beautifully written compared to the Indian book. Now I'm going to give another example. So first example I told you, these online contracts, formation, acceptance, etc. How is it to be resolved? It will be resolved only by the old time-tested method. I give another example, and this example I given to hundreds of occasions. And it's an actual case. In Europe, is football crazy, just as India is cricket crazy, and Europe is football crazy. Okay. There, apart from TV, radio broadcast also takes place. BBC has a radio channel for radio commentary for football. Okay. And for the Champions League or whatever it is, BBC bought the radio broadcasting rights exclusive in UK. I am told there is a competitor for BBC. I don't remember the name. One Radio or something. Okay, is a competitor of that. Okay, he didn't have a contract with the organizing committee. BBC was official. Then this One Radio is a competitor, gave radio commentary, and it became very popular. BBC filed a case for copyright violation, asking for injunction from One Radio, against One Radio. So BBC filed saying, I have exclusive right against for this radio broadcasting in UK. Stop One Radio from this. The court asked One Radio, why? How are you giving radio commentary? What you are doing is illegal. Therefore, you have to give stay to BBC. One Radio said, sir, I am not retelecasting. I am not rebroadcasting BBC's commentary. Suppose you download Star Sports commentary and retelecast illegally, that is violation. I am not capturing BBC signal and rebeaming it. If I do that, that is a violation. What I done, sir? Then court asked, what did you do? I sent my commentator team, 3 expert commentators from England to Holland. Matches are being played in Holland. Those 3 people took a room in Holland, in a hotel in Holland. Okay. They sat in a hotel and room in Holland, put on the TV. In the TV, saw the football match. Put the TV on mute. Okay. Saw the football match and gave their commentary. And One Radio, radio commentary was broadcast in UK. And One Radio was advertising live from Holland. Radio commentary live from Holland. कोर्ट ने पूछा ये क्या हो रहा है? सर हम हॉलैंड से बोल रहे हैं, लाइव है मैच. Then I am not retelecasting BBC's own signal. My own commentary is there. So, and then to give a impression as if it is some from the stadium, they gave some background sound from some stadium. आजकल आ रहा है ना क्रिकेट फुटबॉल मैच, यही हुआ. So court said your projection that you are giving a stadium this thing, that is unfair. But you are not violated any law. BBC is not entitled for any stay. What did the court say? Court said, Mister, if, and this is where the importance of contract law is in sports law. I will tell you in a minute. By telecasting the match in the TV, the court said you are given virtual ladder to everybody in the world to peek into your stadium and view the match. Okay. If you go to the stadium, if you enter the stadium and from the stadium, you give a radio broadcasting, suppose instead of doing with the hotel room, the commentary team entered the stadium and match they give commentary. Will it be illegal? There again, nothing illegal because they are not copying anybody. They see the match and give the commentary. Then the sports book is written. How is that BCCI is able to get 1,000 crores from Star Sports? Then football, England is able to get 1,000 crores from broadcasters. If people pay money to the sports association and somebody can merrily violate it, kya fayda kya hai? Then the court pointed out that the sports bodies are able to prevent you from broadcasting by putting it as a contract condition, the right of admission. When I told you, sir, you enter the stadium, see the match and telecast, and then give commentary. Or you take a video camera. Suppose you take a video camera to the stadium, capture the match, and then telecast from there. You're nothing illegal. No copyright law is violated. No law is violated. How do the sports bodies achieve this? Because the match is played in a closed stadium, a right of admission is reserved. In the right of admission, they put this contract clause. I admit you to the stadium only for the purpose of viewing the match. You have no right to click pictures, no right to broadcast. In other words, the so-called sports law is ultimately enforced by ordinary contract law. The sports law is administered by ordinary contract law. Sir, that I told you. So therefore, right of admission may, they will say, we will not do this. And then you have ambush marketing. You remember Samsung has got the official TV partner for this thing. Then Sony sends spectators. One spectator will have S on this thing, another spectator will have O. So all the four of them will stand together. Sony. Then right of admission may, you will not with others participate and project some other product. The cameraman who is clicking the picture is barred from showing spectators standing together as Sony. Sriram. Sir, the cameraman of the sports body covering the match is the contract clause is put that if people are standing with Sony, you will not show them on the TV. You will not capture that picture. The spectator will put a condition. You will not participate in ambush marketing. Everything, therefore, is through ordinary contract law. Nothing special than this. Then, this way, match is held inside a stadium. You can prevent anybody from capturing the picture. Marathon is run on the road. Olympic marathon, Asian Games marathon is on the road, public road. You cannot stop anybody from viewing if he captures it. Then the Olympic Association or Asian Games Association will say, I give hosting rights to Delhi city. One of the clauses in the agreement would be, Delhi will enact a law 15 days before the tournament and 15 days of the tournament, prohibiting public from taking pictures of marathon for telecasting purposes. That is, as part of the contract for awarding hosting of the event to that city, they put a clause that you will go to your government and get a law made which will prevent public from taking pictures. Otherwise, no bar will be there. Everything is governed by contract law. So there's nothing outside the contract law. When I said, therefore, read this contract law, I'm not saying only the Contract Act. If you read the Cheshire and Clifford line by line, and answer, you can take it from me. जैसे आप स्टोरी सुनते हैं ना, जो लाइफ में है महाभारत में होगा, जो महाभारत में होगा वही लाइफ में है. Nothing outside life is possible in Mahabharata. Whatever is in Mahabharata alone will be in life. Every situation will be there in that book. These two books, Cheshire and Fifort or Anson. हाँ, एक बात है. If you read the book once and say मेरा mastery हो गया contract law में, foolish. Because then the easiest job in the world is contract act 15 दिन पढ़ लो, you become number one in the world. ऐसा तो होगा तो सारे वही हो जाएंगे. I met one judge from Calcutta High Court, just Nizamuddin karke. He's a sitting judge, very nice man. He was telling me a story. It seemed I don't remember the name, etc. There's a famous homeopathy doctor in Calcutta. 2 students passed out from the homeopathy 5-year course. They finished, and they went and told the doctor, make me your trainee, but for 2 years only. Then we can start our practice. The senior doctor said, I have no problem. I'll make you my trainee. But before you come for training, एक किताब था, I don't remember the book, Sarak Samhita or something. उसको 20 दफा पढ़ के आना, 20 times. Both of you read the book 20 times and come to me. Next day I will take you as this thing. So those 2 students started reading it once, twice. By 10th time, they realized 5 साल में college में नहीं पढ़ा, 10 दफा वही की किताब पढ़ा, master हो गए. They went back and told the senior doctor, sir हमको जरूरत नहीं है, हमको अच्छी तरह मालूम है. So if you read that Cheshire and Fifort constantly and regularly, don't put a limit. You want to read it 10 times, read it. Read it 20 times, read it. 100 times, read it. Every time you learn something new. And it's not to be learned only in the 5 year in the college. I keep the Cheshire and Fifort with me all the time. Whenever I get time, I read it. World of information will be there. Everything will be there. Insurance law, some comment will be there. And small, very lucidly written. Nothing outside. So I gave you 2 examples of so-called online contract. The principle is old classical law. Then I told you the sports law. BBC paid hundreds of crores to get the right. But इसमें हो गया contract law में. वो किताब में थे, मैंने नहीं दिया. This is a reported case. Injunction was refused. I also do not remember whether you people recollect. There was one cricket match being played in England between Pakistan and England. एक ऑस्ट्रेलिया से अंपायर था, डैरल हैर करके, वो थोड़ा पागल था. He said Pakistan team has cheated by changing the ball. Inzamam ul Haq was the captain. वो शरीफ आदमी था, एकदम शरीफ आदमी है. अंपायर को बोला to withdraw the allegation, otherwise we will not participate. वो अंपायर ने बोला तो 10 मिनट लेट आए, मैच इज forfeited करके. बहुत लफड़ा हुआ, बाद में इंक्वायरी हुआ, वो सब हुआ. उसमें कमेंट्री आ रहा था. उसे पूछा था क्या हो रहा भाई, पब्लिक तो पैसा दिया, अंपायर झगड़ा करे, ईगो, पाकिस्तान टीम के साथ झगड़ा करे, जो भी ईगो है, पब्लिक हैज पेड मनी टू कम टू वॉच द मैच, दे आर द वंस हु आर रियली इंटरेस्टेड, यू आर चीटिंग देम. उसको क्या जवाब देंगे? अंपायर को नहीं पूछते. वो क्रिकेट ग्राउंड वाला बोलता है सर मैच इज कंडक्टेड बाय द आईसीसी, मैच इज कंडक्टेड बाय आईसीसी, ग्राउंड इज आवर्स. सिमिलरली इंदौर में आपका स्टेडियम है, इंदौर क्रिकेट एसोसिएशन स्टेडियम इज देयर. ओके, इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट मैच इज हेल्ड. प्लेयर तो बीसीसीआई का, दूसरा इंग्लैंड का, अंपायर आईसीसी का है. ये क्या लफड़ा है? Simple point is there is a contract between Indore Madhya Pradesh Cricket Association and BCCI. There is another contract between BCCI and ICC. There is another contract between players and the state association. Yuvraj Singh, Sachin Tendulkar, बड़ा भी हो सकता है, but he'll be registered with Maharashtra Cricket Association. Chiteshwar Pujara will be registered with Saurashtra Cricket Association. There is no contract with BCCI directly. So if there is a breach, there will be a contract between this ICC umpire. There is a contract between ICC and umpire. Another contract between ICC and BCCI. So everything is split into small contracts. हाँ, You must, if you want to know sports law, all you need to know is, sir, there are these many contracts involved. और कुछ नहीं चाहिए आपको. You must know, for advertising agency, there will be a separate contractor. That fellow will put a contract. Yuvraj Singh, I'm your brand promoter. You will not enter into contract with anybody else. ऐसा कोई law नहीं है. Sports law of India करके act नहीं है. There will be some drug cheating. उसका क्या होगा? Association is liable. Everything is in contract law. I'm giving you example of sports law. Energy law. Minimum guarantee. Having agreed to this, once some power cut took place in New York some 30, 50, 60 years ago. Okay. And they were sued. 5 minutes. They were sued for damages. New York Electricity Corporation virtually went bankrupt. All because they did not put in a clause that in case of this, etc., we will not be liable. Any law, you give any other law. Cyber law, I'll give you example, sir. We know Act of Parliament come into force on the day President assents it. Suppose Finance Act is passed with Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and President assents it on, say, 12th of May. The act comes into force on 12th of May. Correct? 12th of May. There is no need for gazetting it. Suppose the President has signed it on 12th May at 11 a.m. Sign किया उन्होंने 11 बजे sign किया. Imposing tax on some item, sales tax on some item, he's put a tax. President has signed it on 11 a.m. उसपे tax है 5% some item में. You prove that you have sold it at 8 a.m. that day. आपने जब सेल किया 8 बजे किया था, President का signature 11 a.m. को हुआ था. Are you liable to pay the tax? The law is, once the President signs it on 11 a.m. on 12th of May, it is effective from the midnight of that day. That is 11 a.m. he signed it. On 12th May, it is effective from 00 hours between 11th and 12th midnight. All laws commence from the expiry of the previous day. You cannot say, President साहब आपने 5 बजे साइन किया तो लॉ 5 बजे लगेगा. 6 बजे साइन किया 6 बजे लगेगा. किसको मालूम है 5 बजे साइन किया 6 बजे साइन किया, मालूम नहीं. Therefore, law specifically say, General Laws Act में, whatever time the President might have signed on that day, it will be effective from the beginning hours of that day, that is closing hours the previous day. That is the law. No problem. Similarly, for subordinate legislation also, subordinate legislation notification issued by the government at 5 p.m. Lockdown में notification issue हो रहा ना आजकल 5 बजे 6 बजे etc. Legally speaking, it will be effective from 00 hours of that day, expiry of the previous midnight, irrespective of the time. Up now people are asking, sir, those are times when we do not know when the President has signed the act. We do not know when the lockdown notice is signed by this thing. Nowadays, sir, online signature time के साथ आता है. Okay, the notification when the officer signs, secretary signs it, he puts the time 17-15 hours. Therefore, the old law that it is signed in 17-15 hours, it will not be effective in 00 hours of that day. Is not applicable. It will be effective 17-15 hours. Because now it's online. So क्या होगा? What is the meaning? That is, Gazettes of India Act is replaced by E-Gazette Act. It says whatever is required to publish in the Gazette, it will publish in E-Gazette. Same principle will apply. Same principle also 00 hours. Whether fair or not is different. In other words, if children have the belief that they can know this current law, etc., without knowing the core of this, is completely misconceived. There is absolutely nothing new in these laws. It's only a nomenclature, either by the law schools to attract students or law firms to attract students. कुछ भी हो. हाँ, हम ये नहीं कह रहे इसमें कुछ नहीं है. It puts together in one place all types of contracts involved in sports law, between the association and the player, between the physician, training expert, manager and the coach. सब चीज एक जात मिल जाता है. But everything is based on contract. So my closing remarks to the children would be, please read few of the laws thoroughly. Don't stop reading them once. Exam ho gaya, nahi. One of them is contract law. And I will recommend you to always read Anson and Cheshire, but they are lucidly written and beautifully written. And the Indian Pollock and Mullah gives the Indian Act also. That also is very well written book. Little tough, language is tough. This is one. The second lesson which Justice Karju told me, Sridharan, what type of lawyer you are? You have come to the court without a dictionary. He says a lawyer should always have dictionary on his table. Very correct statement. I'm following it. I'm being follow. I'm preaching what I'm not following. So all students, and when they practice as a lawyer in the court, everywhere, whether they carry the IPC or not, they should have the BEAR Act, English dictionary, simple dictionary. If you want English to English dictionary, no problem. Hindi to English dictionary, English to English, or you download online in your laptop or mobile and keep it. So develop the habit of constantly consulting dictionary, because words we think have one meaning, but when look at the dictionary, अलग निकलता है. Communication हो जाता mind में. 2, 3. You're all from Madhya Pradesh. Okay. You may read any book or do not read any book. One book an Indian lawyer should read is Interpretation of Statutes by Justice G.P. Singh. There is no better book than that. I keep reading second and third edition of the book. Current edition is little fat. जो second और third edition में है वो काफी हमारे लिए. That book also you can read repeatedly. The storehouse of information and lucidly written. And with this, you can solve any of your cyber law, Information Technology Act. Yes, there are few additional facts you must know peculiar to that. That's all. But answer to them will be from this only. Without knowing this, you cannot. With this, I'm thankful to you, Professor, for giving me a chance to share my thoughts with your children. And thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Namaskar.
Again, sir, it's a very interesting session for us. Thought-provoking words. I want to ask a few questions on behalf of the students. Other than contract, which law is most important area, or what most important law for students? They will go through with that. Can you just share, other than interpretation, definitely after contract, interpretation is a very, very important area which they can put focus on.
G.P. Singh book.
But
okay.
Yes,
sir,
yes, I understand.
Law is an ocean. Nobody can be a master. Yes. Nobody. Chief Justice of India ho, Jethmalani Sahab ho, law is an ocean. All are students. There's no end to learning. But to be a complete this thing, according to me, whether you want to be a commercial lawyer in a company or a district court civil lawyer, this few things are important. Solomons Jurisprudence is a pet book for me on topics on ownership. पूरा नहीं पढ़ने का उसमें भी. Ownership, property, person. Civil Procedure Code is an ocean. Civil Procedure Code is an ocean. But in this, people think Civil Procedure Code is filing of the form, this, that, certificate, exhibit, etc. There are some provisions of Civil Procedure Code which are very informative. For example, I am a tenant. I have to pay, I'll take 1 minute only, Professor. I am a tenant. I have to pay rent. A is telling me, I am your landlord, you pay me. B is telling me, I am your landlord, pay me. What do? CPC says, you go to the court and say, I am ready to pay the money. I do not know who to pay. Those people do not want to come to the court. What we call interpleader suit. You file a suit in the court saying, I don't want anything. Here is my money. Let A and B come to the court and fight with each other as to who is entitled to the money, so that I am relieved. If you pay A, tomorrow B will come and say, please pay me. So there are a number of small provisions in CPC which have principles underlining them. What is called interpreter suit, means profit. Okay. Procedure part is important, that you can. Some portions of Limitation Act also important. For a practice, if you are a lawyer practicing, then whether you read rest of Limitation Act or not, section 5 on continuation of delay, 12 and 14, 5, 12 and 14, some provisions of Limitation Act should be known. Sale of Goods Act, of course, you can. These are some fundamental. I am not a great fan of you knowing the constitution law. So after 10-15 years of practice, you yourself will learn. Okay. Student is glamorous, cash on, wo padna padta hai. As a student, you should. But real practice mein, high ends of constitutional law will not come. Also, and kindly don't misunderstand me, Professor, I don't think it's taught in any law college. Maitland and Equity is an old book. First 30-40 pages padho. What is equity? Ye 4-5 cheez kar le, you are 85% lawyer. Whether a practicing lawyer or working in a company, district court, everything. This is what I would recommend. Maitland on Equity, the first 10-15 principles. Yes, sir.
My second question is, what law firms are expecting today from law students, either from law universities or central university or state university? It is immaterial. What we are expecting from law students as and when they want to enter into the law firm or industry, what is the first priority feature?
I'm not good in this. You are asking a question to wrong. Lakshmana साहब से पूछते हैं, आप बद्री नारायण से पूछते हैं, वो सही जवाब देंगे. If I am asked, I will only look for one character, whether the boy is reasonably good in academics, and he is willing to work hard. These two. And then I'll ask him to college. I don't know about other law, this thing. Yes.
My last question, sir, is related to virtual lawyering. Is very much in question. Very much is.
If you know law, virtual lawyering will automatically come. If you do not know law, virtual lawyering will not come. Okay.
Can you share any?
I'm told tomorrow you have a session on this virtual lawyering. Tomorrow, you have a session by Vivek Tanka. He will explain to you fully. But in one sentence, so-called soft skills are a convenient excuse for not knowing the core skills. In my humble opinion, I may be wrong. I may be old-fashioned. The so-called soft skills are a convenient shortcut or an excuse for not having core skills. If core skills are there, soft skill automatically. Okay. So
sir, at the end, on behalf of Jagran Lake City University, JLU School of Law, on behalf of faculty members, students, I want to say thanks once again for sparing time for us for this very wonderful session, for this learning experience for us. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
It was not too boring. It was not too boring to you.
No, not at all, sir.
Of course, students have no voice. They have no choice or no voice in these things. So we leave it at that. Okay.
It's a lifetime learning experience for us, all of us. Thank you, sir.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.